Good day, dear learners. I welcome you in this new session in which I'll be talking about clothes. Now, in this session, I've categorized into different categories in which I'll be dealing with clothes which are traditional, the textile arts, the religious costumes, the ethnic clothes, and the skills required to make those traditional clothes and ethnic outfits. So, to begin with the overview, what you will, by the end of the session, you will be able to understand how historically the whole evolution of clothing took place, especially in ancient and medieval India. Then explore how traditional attire, it reflects our Indian cultural values and regional diversity. And lastly, you'll be also able to learn about India's rich textile heritage and traditional craftsmanship techniques. So the skills set, what the skills are required in order to harness such a huge variety of this the textile, cultural textiles in our country, that will be dealing by the end of this session. Okay, so let's begin. So if you look at the historical evolution of clothing in ancient India, we have to understand that history, where do we get the information from, right? So basically the excavation process that took place, the archaeologists, when they uncovered the Indus Valley civilization, they did find some a very peculiar kind of artifacts which signified how the sewing was the very popular kind of profession that was followed at that time. So clothes were sewed at that time, and there was also evidence of some needles, some spindles, like you can see in this image, spindles and weaving activities that was uncovered at the Harappan site. And a variety of unstitched garments can also be observed when they excavated. They found unstitched garments also. And men have been depicted wearing an unstitched lower garment or the loincloth, while the females and the women at that time, they wore short skirts or a closed fit tunics at that time. Now, before I start, explaining about the different period and the kind of clothes that were, manifested in those period, we have to understand where are we getting all that information from. So you see, history is being told to us through this different monuments, through the sculptures, through paintings. We have uncovered this mystery of several mystery, in fact, and one of the mystery is like the evidence of clothing in during that period. So if you go to the Vedic period, the Rig Veda, it mentions two kind of garments. Vasa, that is the upper garment, and Adivasa, that is the lower garment. And then there was also mention of Nivi, which is an undergarment. So gradually other clothes such as Atkal, it is like a woven well-fitted garment. Drapi, it is a mantle or a cloak, or a pisas is an embroidered garment, which was also commonly worn by the female dancers during the Vedic period. And it's also mentioned in the Vedic text at that time. Now, if you come to the Mauryan period, here we find that the different sculptures, through that we are deciphering what kind of clothes they wore at that time. So the Arthashastra of the Kautilya mentions the thread meaning sutras, right? And the coats, that is the varma, or the cloth, that is vastra, and ropes, that is the rajju, right? All that were manufactured by the weaving, you can say, departments of that time. And even in that time, people wore cotton clothes, muslin garments, and the upper garment was usually thrown over the shoulders and partly twisted around the waist, that giving that look of it's a wraparound, while the lower garment, it hung down to the knees. Now you can see even in the sculptures here, like how it is being depicted, right? Now coming to the Gupta period. Now as the time is progressing, you find that the textile is becoming all the more richer, and the stitch garment, they started becoming very widely used. Stitch, and now you can say the modification that was done in that stitching process. So men started wearing dhoti or the loin cloth, and sometimes they covered their upper body with a coat or a tunic that reached up to their knees. And there are different paintings in the even in the Ajanta, the caves of Ajanta in Maharashtra and Bagh in Madhya Pradesh, which shows a variety of costume that was worn by different people of different professions, and at different even status of that people was reflected through their clothes. So even like if you see during that time you see a prince riding a horse, he was wearing a full sleeve tunic, a short dhoti with a kamarband, and the nobles also wore something known as kanchuka, right? It's a tunic like garments, and babhana, which is probably a half sleeve padded coat. That was all uncovered through the different, you can say, paintings, the cave paintings that were during that particular time. Now, having said that, now we have to understand how clothes is basically reflecting our Indian values and why is it so important to us. So remember in the last lecture when I talked about food, just how the geographical variation in our country produce such huge variety of cuisines, right? Similarly, in that sense, the geographical condition of our country also provides a different variety even in the clothes section. So, cloth is what? It is basically mirroring the country's cultural ethos, its values, the traditional and identity. And especially in Indian context, it is reflecting unity in diversity because of such diverse cultures, right? So, from a simple cotton garment, you can see, to the silk worn during the festival, every piece of cloth is it basically embodying. It is embodying modesty. It is embodying respect. It is embodying your identity, spirituality, harmony within the whole community, in harmony within the nature as well. So clothing choice in India reflects the weavers also sense the of belongingness, their social role, what were their social role in that society, and their regional identity, and showing how the attire is being deeply intertwined with culture and tradition. So all the traditional garments which are often chosen, you can say, even till now we find that when it comes to traditional garment, we're so particular about choosing when it comes to a special occasion, any ritual, any festival, because it is symbolizing our the respect that we have, the continuity of our heritage, right? Now, the craftsmanship involved in the whole weaving process, the dyeing, embroidery, it is illustrating India's artistic excellence, and the whole indigenous knowledge is, passing through this particular cultural heritage, which obviously will be passed on from one generation to another generation. Now, moving forward, what are the different values that are basically reflected through our clothing? So, the first value is modesty and respect. So, Indian clothing, if you look at it, it traditionally symbolizes decencies, it symbolizes humility, right? So, garment like saris, shalwar kameez, dhoti, kurta, it is basically designed to cover the body in a very graceful manner. And it reflects our India's value of modesty, that is Maryada, right? Even the clothing choice shows respect for a particular age, the gender, and the social role. For example, elders, they usually, when they reach to a particular age, they switch towards whites and different shades of whites and creams and beige colors. Why? Because it's a symbol of simplicity and detachment from all the worldly, colorful things, right? And even covering the head with a dupatta, with the sari, with the pallu or a turban, and especially when you're visiting the temples or visiting the religious place or in front of elders, what is it showing? It is signifying the respect, humility, and this is the core aspect of our Indian ethical behavior. The next value is spirituality and purity. So, how clothing in India has been linked to spirituality and the purity of mind and body. So, white is symbolizing purity and peace. Saffron color stands for renunciation and sacrifice, and usually it is used for all the festive season. Even red, which vibrates a lot of energy, love, and fertility, and that is why red is the color of the bride in India. And even in Hinduism, specific garments are worn during some specific rituals, some fasts, some ceremonies, which is maintaining that sanctity, right? And even the fabric selection, like using natural fibers like cotton, silk, jute, it reflects the belief in sattvic. Sattvic living meaning simple living, cleanliness, and harmony with nature. So, how you're utilizing the resources, which is resources available in front of you, around you, that also will be reflecting in our Indian ethos, even in our culture. And even if you see from the evolution of clothing, the geographical condition, the resources present, and the skill set that people had, That's how the whole, you can say, the genre of the clothes change from one period to another, right? Then another is university and diversity. Needless to say, you know that India is full of such diverse culture. But in spite of the diverse culture and every culture having a distinctive traditional dress, yet together they represent oneness of Indian culture. So like sari is depicting one genre, right, of a dress. But of different states, you go to Banarsi, Kanjivaram, Sambalpuri, Bandhani, there are different type of, you can say, the weaving process is different, the dyeing process is different, the skill craftsmanship is different. And even the turbans from Punjab to Rajasthan all tell a different story. They tell the story of their local tradition, their craftsmanship, and their shared identity. Then these differences, they are basically coexisting harmoniously, which is basically embodying what? The Indian ethos of Vasudeva Kutumbakam. That is, the world is one intact family. And then wearing regional attire, especially during the festival or the national days, affirm our cultural pride and our collective identity as well. So the next value is sustainability and the respect that we have for nature. And you must understand that traditional Indian clothing is always eco-conscious. And it reflects eco-conscious lifestyles because it is rooted in the respect for the resources that are present in the environment. So use of hand-woven fabric, natural dyes, natural fibers, cotton, silk, which align with the principle of ahimsa, that is non-violence towards nature. And even the ancient textile traditions like khadi or handloom weaving, it promotes self-reliance and simplicity. It values, it values and reflects our Indian history, our India's freedom struggle, especially led by Mahatma Gandhi. Now moving forward to other values, let's look at the expression of social and cultural identity. So like I said, clothing is basically signifying belongingness to a particular community, to a region, to a faith, but still maintaining inter-religious harmony as well, right? So like Sikh, they wear turban, Muslim might be wearing kurta pajama, Hindu might be wearing dhoti or kurta, but then it reflects a distinct cultural heritage, yet they're coexisting together, right? So dress code during festival, weddings and ritual, and it is we do have the dress code. Why? Because it is reinforcing the sense of joy, the devotion, and the continuity of our traditions. Then coming to reflection of skills and knowledge system. Right, so Indian textile represents centuries of, we can say, indigenous knowledge, craftsmanship, and aesthetic philosophy also. So just looking at the embroidery, different type of embroidery like zardosi, kantha, chikankari, phulkari, right, and weaving like ikat, patola, or pochampali, it embodies local wisdom and artistry as well. So all these practices, it is emphasizing the Indian value of Shram, that is dignity of labor and the transmission of traditional knowledge or traditional wisdom from one generation to another. Now let's have a look at how diversity in Indian traditional dresses are there, right? So like I said, you like just like when I was giving the lecture of the food, just traveling few kilometers away, you travel few kilometers, the geographical condition changes, food changes, and even the when it comes to clothes, that also changes. So north, east, west, south, drastic change in the you can say their clothing, the kind of arts, the craftsmanship also, that also differs accordingly. And every dress, it narrates a story of that particular region's history, artistry, its values, and the preserving the essence of Indian ethos through the fabric and the form. Okay, so first let's have a look at the sari. Now, sari was, you can see this is the world oldest surviving garment. Still, people are wearing it, and it originated as the evidence that we have, that is in the Indus Valley civilization. It traces back till that period. The women, how they draped in unstitched fabric around their bodies, and even in the Vedic Gupta period, it evolved into a symbol of grace, modesty, purity, and often made from cotton, silk, and muslin. Of course, the kind of weaving and the dyeing tradition, the different varieties of saris are there, like Kanjivaram, Banarsi, Patola, which is enriched in its diversity. So you can see even in the images, you have the Kanjivaram and the Banarsi. Here you can see here, and the Patola design is also there. Now, Kanjivaram and Banarsi sari, they look quite similar. You can see in the picture, this one and this, they look quite similar. But the difference is that Kanjivaram, the origination is from South India, right? And it is made of pure mulberry silk. And it is relatively heavier. You can see it's quite heavy. You know, the cold work is quite heavy. The thread that is used, and the structured feel. The motifs are usually inspired by temple architecture, some deities, and stripes and things like that there. But in the Banarsi sari, it is originated from North India. It is relatively very soft, finer silk, easy to drape, right? And you can say it traces back to Mughal period, which it is inspired by the floral and the paisley, you can say brocade work that is present there. So sari, it's worn all over India, right? Now moving forward is Ghagra Choli. That also, it is date back to Indus Valley civilization. So we see that there are stitched ghagra, that is the skirt here, and the choli is the blouse, and the odhni is the dupatta or the veil, that is. Even in the Vedic and Gupta period, women's clothing, it reflected modesty and grace. And in Mughal era, the brocade, the silk, the brocade, and the decorated, you can say zardosi, mirror work, kota patti became very common during that time. And predominantly, this particular dress is worn in Rajasthan, Gujarat, and North India region because of its unique color, the vibrant, unique style, and vibrant colors, and the embroidery pattern. And it's beyond aesthetics that Ghagra Choli, it symbolizes femininity and cultural identity as well. So, usually, if you look at the region, this is where it is being worn. Then shalwar kameez is also a traditional outfit, beautifully combining the comfort, the modesty, and the cultural elegance, and the elegance, which is still worn today. And major part of the country, you can see, it is worn in this particular parts. And of course, its origin is traced back to Mughal period, where and especially and even in the Mughal period, we see that how the Persian and the Central Asian influence, it kind of the trade of the in those areas, it influenced our clothing styles as well. So they started wearing loose shalwar like trousers paired with long kameez, which is known as the tunic. Then coming to the different embroidery in the block prints and so on, that was also introduced during that time, just like I said, zardosi, zari work, and kota patti, right? Phulkari work, that was very predominantly in Punjab. Chikankari was in Lucknow. So if you look at the shalwar kameez, it represents Indian ethos of modesty, simplicity, and functionality. How comfortable you are in your clothes, right? And till now, I should say, it remains a timeless expression of India's cultural unity in diversity, which is balancing tradition along with modern style. Then we have Pattu Pavadai, that is also known as Langa Davani or a half sari. Now, this is a very traditional attire which was usually worn by young girls and adolescent women in South India, especially in the state of Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, and Kerala. Now, how did the outfit look like? You can see in this image. So, it had a long skirt, pavadai, that is langa, that is a long skirt, and davani or voni, that was the dupatta, and a blouse or a choli, which symbolizes the transition from childhood to womanhood. Traditionally made of silk pattu or with gold zari work borders, and very intricate design also were there. So, and while in Andhra Pradesh, it's also, you can say that it's more the popular dresses, popular, you can say, the sari that was worn at that time, or the pattu vadai that was worn at that time. In this particular dress, the colors and the patterns, it varied according to region also. The bright hues and the contrasting borders and so on. Like in Andhra Pradesh, it was Pochampally or Gadwal silk version, you can see here in this image also, right? So basically, this variation also, it's reflecting our cultural identity, celebrating femininity and the regional craftsmanship, and especially while preserving the essence of the South Indian textile heritage. So this is the area where it is predominantly worn. Then dhoti and lungi also you can see in the South India it is worn here, which is a traditional garment which is worn by men across various regions of India. And the lungi on the other hand is more casual kind of a thing, right? It's made of cotton or silk and is known for its colorful checks and patterns, right? And whereas the dhoti, it is usually cream color and with rectangular piece of cloth which is draped around the waist and legs and tied in a knot. So it's often worn during religious celebrations or ceremonies, the festivals and the formal occasions. Then Sherwani, this is now everybody's familiar with this because now this is becoming the wedding attire, right? The Sherwani. But if you look at the genesis, how did it evolve? Where did it come from? So it was basically in the Mughal period. It was then again it was influenced by the Persian and the Central Asian attire, and it is symbolized royalty, sophistication, and the cultural refinement. And it is predominantly worn by men in North India. But I would say now I think when it comes to wedding, most even in the South Indian, I've seen young boys, they're wearing sherwanis. So it's like a typical churidar or pants are there, pajama are there, and then there is a turban. There's one on the head, and then there is a stole. And the sherwanis usually they have the embroidery, zari work, depending on the occasions. Like it can be made really gaudy. So it's basically Mughal grandeur and Indian tradition is reflected through sherwani. So it basically see we find that this is a timeless outfit which is bridging India's royal past with contemporary fashion as well. Then kurta pajama, you're also familiar with this. This is worn almost in every part of the country. It's popular, reason being because it's very comfortable. It's very simple and very elegant as well. And now, then again, the whole you can say origination of kurta pajama started, if it is traced back to Mughal era, especially during the trade with Persian and Central Asian clothing. It was influenced by their clothing as well. And the kurtas are usually made of cotton, silk, or linen, right? This also reflects the timeless and the practical aspect of this garment, which bridges the tradition with modern life. So if you look at the rich heritage of Indian textile in the ancient period, so we look at the Indus Valley civilization, how the dyes were used during that time, the madder dyed purple, and that which was wrapped around a pot, even that was uncovered during the excavation. So, and then there was a famous stone sculpture, the Priest King, which depicts a tree foiled pattern cloth which was draped around him. So, the early start of textile, if you look at the tradition, provides a base that India became the major textile leader in the world. Even in the Vedic period, it provides a rich insight into the different profession, the raw material that was used. So even the Rig Veda describes weavers as Vasu Vaya, right? And the male weavers were known as Vaya, and the female weavers were known as the Vayetri. And you will be surprised to know that during that time, both male and female, they practice weaving, right? And the early Vedic period, it refers to Vasa and Adhivasa as the upper and the lower garment. So if you look at the earliest pictures and the sculptures, it depicts, a very, it has a different story to tell, right? So the Mahabharata, the Sanskrit epic, it mentions numerous textile tradition which were gifted either in dowry or gifts to the feudatory lords. So there was a reference of Chitra Vastra or Mani Chera in the epic. So both of which denotes a printed and pearl embroidered fabric respectively. And even in the Arthashastra, that signified that textile is in both domestic and foreign trade as well. So there they use fabric like woolen, cotton, flax textiles. And it also mentioned weaving was the women's occupation at that time. And their wages depended on the thickness of the yarn. That's how they were paid. Then Indian textile around in 100 CE has found a good market beyond the subcontinents. In Persian, they admired the bright colors of Indian textile. The Indian muslin, which was called nebula or gangetica, and venti, it became very popular in Rome. The Buddhist literature also mentioned numerous fabric like koman or capiscum or cotton or cosium, which is also known as silk. Even the Jataka tales also mention spinning and weaving as a specific profession. And here also we find that there was a lot of evidence which was required, or which was basically, uncovering the kind of specialized technical skills that which were required for an embroidery. This bandhani, tie and dye, patolo, that is ikat weaving, which was also found during the cave paintings in the Ajanta in 600 CE. So the Mughal period, which dates back to 1500 and 1700 CE, is a very productive era for Indian textile. And it is different, reason being because at that time the artisans, they produce exquisite hand knotted carpets, especially during the Jahangir reign. And they held special workshops for embroidery, goldsmithery, painting, stitching, and skill weaving. And those the even the bedspreads and the wall hanging, they became quite popular, and they were exported to Europe by Portuguese, Dutch, English, and French traders. Then when British colonization started in the mid of 19th century, there we saw that a different turn took place. So it was especially because of the Swadeshi movement, which was led by Mahatma Gandhi, who boycotted the British goods and promoted indigenous production. So despite the challenges and the loss of traditional method, India's textile heritage still survived through weaving, through embroidery and painting practices that still continues today. So the use of pigments in the textiles also dates back to 14th century. If you look particularly in Gujarat and Rajasthan, which were richly decorated fabric which parallel the style of miniature painting. A notable example is the pichwai. It is a painted cloth used as a devotional backdrop for the deity in the temples. So all that, you see that the kind of resources that they use, the pigments, that all came from the nature. Now coming to the types of textile. Now the first type of textile is weaving. So weaving is a process of creating fabric by interlacing two threads, right? So you have the wrap, the lengthwise thread, and the weft, which is the cross thread. So this is the oldest, you can say, method of fabric weaving. And the beauty of weaving lies in the combination of arts, the technique, the choice of colors, the pattern, and the texture as well. So the weaving, it traces back to Neolithic times. The weavers, how they interlaced the branches and the twigs of the tree to make fences, to make shelters and basket for production. Then even in Indus Valley civilization, we did uncover the spinning and the weaving of roles, and how the ancient Indians, they were skilled enough in this particular process as well. And Gupta period also, the weaving became very specialized, and under Mughals it flourished more. And many different fabric like brocades, jamdanis and velvet were produced in the royal workshop. Then again, when it came to the British period, then many of the British, you can say the market which was flooded with British product, the things were boycotted because of the Swadeshi movement, and Mahatma Gandhi, he revived the interest in the hand spun and hand woven cloth like khadi, right? So after independence, India made an effort to preserve and promote its diverse weaving traditions such as Banarsi, Kanchipuram, and Pulkari work. So till today, if you visit those places, these are the traditional dresses that are worn on those dresses in those states, and there's a perfect blend of traditional craftsmanship with modern creativity. Here you can see the different images also of different state-wise how the cloth, and you can see the cloth texture just by looking even at the pictures. You can see the colors used and the texture also. Then even the embroidery, how it differs. So embroidery is the art of decorating fabric, basically using needle, thread or yarn, right? And you're using also beads in between, the sequin, the mirror and the pearls as well. So different state had different, embroidery. So with Pulkari was from Punjab, Chikankari from Lucknow, Kantha from Bengal, Zardosi from Delhi, and Kutch from Gujarat, right? And each style, it reflected the region's history, lifestyle and aesthetic. So same way, Indus Valley civilization did we uncovered a lot of garments with some pattern, some motif, which were embroidered. In medieval period, especially during the Delhi Sultanate, there was a luxury style of, Zardozi, gold and silver thread embroidery, Ari work, that is hook embroidery, and chikankari, which is a very delicate white thread work. Then again, like I said, then the colonial period came and the Swadeshi movement came, which revived the interest in the indigenous craft. Here again, you can see the different kind of, work, the Kota Patti, the Zardozi, the Phulkari work of Punjab, and the Kashida work of Kashmir, Parsi work in Maharashtra, all with beautiful motifs and colors, right? So it's basically enhancing the beauty of the garment as well. Then coming to the dyeing process, how the different colors are added to fibers, yarns, and fabric. So even if you look in the Indus Valley civilization, their archaeologists, they discovered dyed cotton fragments at Mohenjo-daro also. And the natural dyes, they were extracted from plants, minerals, and insects. So we have blue, the common dyes was blue, like indigo, which was blue, madder was red, turmeric was yellow, and the pomegranate rind was basically greenish brownish shade. Even in the Mauryan Gupta period, because of they discovered, or they invented, in fact, a lot of beautiful dyed fabric, and it became a price trade item during the time of Silk Road. And then indigo was famously exported to different countries like Egypt, Europe, and later Europe as well. Then, when the Swadeshi movement came, there was a push towards more eco-friendly production, which revived interest in the natural dyes. And by that, we were preserving India's heritage as a global hub of color and creativity. So you can see here the different fabrics, how they were dyed and how they were basically displayed in the garments, the different color style. Now coming to printing. Now printing on the textile is a process of applying colored pattern or designs like printed decorates, and the printing also, it specifies some different areas, some motifs, some you can say borders as well. So you can see in the image how the printing is done. Very interesting and very you can say it looks very beautiful, the choice of colors and how the design is being well placed. So the textile printing in India, it dates back to 3rd century. And there we have uncovered the wooden blocks and stamp design that we used on the cotton fabric as well. Then even in the Mughal period, we did see there was it flourished during that time, the printing and how the intricate design, the combination of floral, even the geometrical design and the Persian motifs were printed on the fabric. Now you can see here, even in the images, these are the different fabrics which have used the printing. Then this is another skill set, painting. Painting, just imagine a human painting the entire fabric, decorating the fabric with applying colors and dyes and making very creative, very beautiful pattern motifs and images. No doubt it's time taking, but it was beautiful. And all that we uncovered from Ajanta caves also, the paintings done there and the kind of dyes they use, the mineral pigments and so on. So the best form is the kalamkari. As the name said, kalam meaning pen, kari meaning work, and this originated in Andhra Pradesh. And a very unique style of hand paint integrate mythological, you can say, the scenes on cotton and silk fabric, on saris or on blouses, or even on the wall hanging, which natural colors as well. Now this is all kalamkari. You can see even in the image, beautifully being done. All the history is being depicted there. So you see, this is what I call our Indian tradition, our Indian ethos is reflected just from a piece of garment. Can you believe it? So to conclude, the traditional Indian clothing and textile arts are not just an aesthetic expression, right? What did we find? We found that it was a reflection of country's cultural, spiritual, and ethical values. It was also India's philosophy of unity in diversity. So, by preserving and celebrating all these traditions that we just saw, India continues to honor its heritage, fosters social cohesion, and inspire young and future generation like you to understand and to respect our thread of history and artistry through the whole fabric of just a garment, just a cloth. Our whole history is being reflected by it, right? So I hope you enjoyed the session, but we're still not ending because this is quite a long session. So I'll be coming with part 2 of this session. And till then, you take care of yourself. You can also go through this link in which you can have a detailed description regarding the theoretical part that I talked about, and the images also you can find in this suggested reading. So thank you so much for your patience listening, and I'll be back again with part 2. Have a great day.